Hello YouTube, Sidekick here with another installment of The Balloon Goes Up, the Hawgs versus the Warsaw Pact. If you've watched the other videos in this series, it won't need a lot of introduction, and if you haven't watched them, you really should go and do that. But the TLDR summary is that this is a project that I embarked on, and that a lot of guys on my Discord channel are helping me with, to try and create an environment that is as close as possible to the one that the A10 was designed for, or at least as close as possible as DCS will let us. And I have to say that so far it's been, well, kind of impressive how this setting really shows the Hog in kind of a totally different light. I think all the players that have tried it, and there's maybe a dozen or so at this point that have sort of been a little amazed at how different it is from what they're used to. And then how the Hog really thrives in this environment. You know, it kind of goes from being the F-16 slow old uncle to being, you know, the master of the battlefield. Used correctly, it gives pilots tools they've never really thought of using before, and which they find out are essential if they want to both engage targets as efficiently as they need to and live to tell about it. See, the thing about this battlefield that's really kind of unique, at least as far as DCS goes, is that kill ratio is king. There are too many targets for you to take them all out. There just are. So you have to get as many as you can, and you have to get the right ones. But you also have to live to fight another day, because if you go away, they're just going to roll over the friends you left behind. It may not sound all that different, but it really is. Like, seriously, it is. So, we've had a look at a couple of run-throughs of the mission, and they've been getting better all the time. This time I want to look at a 4-ship that did a particularly good job at executing what I call the high-low tactic. Now, one interesting thing I want to point out before we get started is so far, we've only really been practicing one mission, and it's been the same mission over and over again, although, trust me, more are coming. But the interesting thing is, honestly, no one seems to be getting bored of it yet. There are so many ways to try and crack this problem, and so many ways that it will beat you if you aren't careful, that everyone really seems to be having a good time flying it repeatedly and trying to get good at it. And I guess that's sort of the point, because this is what I call a training mission. It's meant to be repeated so that you can try out your tactics and your teamwork. There will eventually be live exercises, which will be similar, set in the same place, but not exactly the same, and they'll be different enough that you'll have a chance to apply your tactics to a new situation. So we haven't done a live X yet, although the first one is coming probably around the time this video comes out, probably. If you want to know more, or you want to sign up for a training or a live X session, drop by my Discord and look for the Balloon Goes Up thread. Okay, so today we have a 4-ship practicing recce by death, as we call it. The problem they have is that the enemy is here, across the base of this area of wooded hills that we call Central Park. There are long columns of literally dozens of vehicles. Inside those columns, there are pockets of SA-9s and Shilkas, somewhere. Probably in groups of 2 or 4. There may also be man-pad detachments that might be deployed if the columns stop and deploy. We don't know exactly where the air defense are. We know they're there, though. Finally, in depth, at the bottom of the map, there are a couple of SA-6 sites. Now, they've been kind of suppressed by the wild weasels, so their coverage, doesn't reach all the way forward to the front edge of Central Park, which is where the forward edge of battle area is. But they are a threat if you're at altitude once you get very far into the area of Central Park. So, the plan is for the first element, Hammer 1 and 2, to ingress low down this valley that we call Sleepy Hollow. They're going to pop up, find the targets, and make a rocket attack. They have to keep 2 things in mind. First, they can't afford to get too close to the enemy. The effective weapon effect zone of the SA-9 is, between 3 and 4 nautical miles, and the Shilka's at about 2. They need to spend absolutely as little time as possible inside those weapon effect zones. Secondly, they need to use the ground. There is no point in flying away from a Shilka, or really even an SA-9. You have to put some ground between you and it, and you have to do it as quickly as possible. Like, really, as quickly as possible. So, okay, the second element, Hammer 3 and 4, will come in here and do what we call a high cover flight. Their job is to watch the target area for the threats, identify them if they can from the smoke trails or the tracers, engage them with mavericks if they get a chance, or mark their positions in the column so that they and the other element can circle back out to the bullseye and come back in and use their mavericks against the known air defense threats. But the high cover group has a couple of things to keep in mind as well. The first is that they have to time their run very carefully. They need to be where they can see the target when Hammer 1 and 2 engage it. Now, this is actually harder than it looks because they actually only have a limited lifespan at altitude in the front half of Central Park. They're almost guaranteed to hear the SA-6s. I'm taking a significant interest in them, and if they hang around too long at altitude, they're going to be running from some pretty large inbound missiles. Finally, they also have to be very mindful of that same SHORAD's weapon effects zone. I mean, we've discovered it's really easy on high cover to get padlocked on a target and wander in too close. And since you're up high, you won't have anywhere to hide. So, like I said, it sounds simple, but there's a lot of situational awareness that needs to be managed, including very intimate awareness not only of the threat and the map in general, but you also really got to know the terrain itself, like where are the valleys, the folds in the ground. How can you fly to get terrain between you and the threat? Not only the SHORAD's threat, but those pesky SA-6s as well. Anyways, let's see how it goes with this group. Okay, here comes Hammer 1 and 2 down Sleepy Hollow. There's a good look at Hammer 1 going by Leskin. You can tell by the smoke. This means they're about 30 seconds from rolling in. Here they come in the final part of their run down Sleepy Hollow, nice and low. No one's going to see them there. Hammer 1 is going up. Hammer 2 is following him. Here comes Hammer 1 over the top. Lining himself up nicely. And unloading a load of rockets. And there he goes, breaking down and away, not waiting to see where the rockets go. That's good. And he looks like he's away safe. Let's see what it looked like from Hammer 2's view. There comes Hammer 2 up into his pop-up. He's higher and behind Hammer 1. Watch Hammer 1's effects, and now he's lining up his own rockets and breaking away. And it's a good thing he is, because the SA-9s appear to have woken up. Dodges one, and here comes another one, which he also manages to dodge by going low. So Hammer 1 and 2 are away. Here, that's what it looks like from Hammer 3's perspective. He gets a front row seat. He's in a perfect position to see the rocket strikes, and more to the point, in a perfect position to see the SA-9s respond. So he can mark them down, and he's doing exactly what you'd expect. He's pointing himself back at the area so he can get a good look at where the actual SAM launches came from. Now, Hammer 4 got himself a little bit out of position. He kind of lost his lead at some point, but he does still have a good front row seat on the action. You'll see he can see the rocket strikes as well. He can also see the SAM launches. So even if he's not in a good position to attack from there, he is in a good position to mark down exactly where things are. So there goes Hammer 2 following Hammer 1 up the Leskin Valley. They are both away safe. Now, Hammer 3 is in a great position to fire a Maverick, so that's what he does. And not only that, but he's pretty quick on the draw, so he's actually going to have time to get a second Maverick away. And there it goes. And he's really he doesn't want to get any closer than that to the enemy, so he's breaking down and away, looking for a valley to hide in. Probably by this time he's getting a little worried about the SA-6s. He has been dropping chaff the whole time, but it's probably time to stop pushing his luck. Hammer 4 is already on his way out of town, and if you look over his shoulder, you can see the effect of the Maverick strikes. So let's just take a final look at what that looked like from the enemy's perspective. So basically, I make that score 3 enemy vehicles destroyed, no Hawgs harmed. One of the enemy vehicles, one at least, was a high value target, because we got one SA-9 out of action. The low strikers did their job. They kept the enemy occupied. They got the enemy to reveal their position. They actually managed to get a kill with their rocket strikes from a fairly long range. And the high cover guys not only marked down where the enemy threat came from, but actually engaged it with 2 Mavericks, took out 2 vehicles. Now the whole team cycles back to the bullseye and goes again, but this time they have much better situational awareness of what to expect from the enemy. So I think that was a pretty good run. And hopefully we're going to see a lot more of those kind of tactics as we learn to practice this scenario. At any rate, that's going to be it for me right now. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you again soon, and this is going to be Sidekick, signing off.